Lawyers, what's the most satisfying moment? Someone realized the harmless clause was a time bomb with their name on it. I'm a probate attorney in a mid-sized southern town. I've seen some nasty inheritance wars, siblings suing each other, secret children crawling out of the wood, even threats made at funerals. But this case? This one still makes me pause every time I hear the word will. It started when Eleanor Delaney passed away at the age of 79. A respected retired literature professor, she was known around town as elegant, sharp-tongued, and fiercely private. Her estate was modest in value. An old Victorian house, a few valuable antiques, and some savings. But her family? That's where the story begins to rot. She had 2 children. Her son Andrew, a quiet, awkward man who taught biology at a community college, and her daughter Rachel, who seemed to be everyone's favorite. Rachel was the town darling. Blonde, charming, PTA president, married to a successful dentist, 2 perfect kids, Christmas cards with calligraphy. If you Googled Southern Belle, her face might pop up. Andrew, on the other hand, kept to himself. Never married. No kids. Collected bugs and had an unhealthy relationship with his cat. He was socially awkward, not warm. And, perhaps worst of all, didn't kiss up to Eleanor like Rachel did. Still, he was kind and loyal. He visited his mother weekly, ran her errands, brought her groceries, and fixed her Wi-Fi without being asked. When Eleanor died, I was contacted by Rachel almost immediately. She said she was the executor and that her mother had left a new will that would be delivered by her attorney. I asked her to bring it in. She said she would, after the funeral. When I asked about Andrew, she said, "Oh, he's devastated. He's not handling it well. It's better if I manage everything." Red flag number 1. A week later, Rachel brought me a sleekly typed will, dated 6 weeks before Eleanor's death, naming Rachel as sole beneficiary and executor. Not a dollar for Andrew. Red flag number 2. The signature was off. The strokes were smoother than Eleanor's usual handwriting, and the witness signatures were from 2 of Rachel's close friends, both realtors, both who had posted about Eleanor's house being a historic gem weeks before Eleanor passed. Red flag number 3. But the biggest red flag came when Andrew, soft-spoken and trembling, came into my office the next day holding a worn folder. I found this in Mom's drawer. She told me to give it to someone if anything ever felt strange. Inside was a handwritten will dated 2 years prior. It was witnessed by Eleanor's longtime friend, a retired notary, and her physician neighbor. The document was informal but valid under our state laws. It left the house to Andrew and divided the rest of the assets between both children. Rachel got half of the money. Andrew got the house and the rest. The original will didn't scream revenge. It screamed fair. It also screamed that Eleanor expected something bad might happen. That's when I got suspicious and started digging. The typed, updated will had not been notarized. Rachel claimed Eleanor didn't like notaries and thought they were a government scam. That would be hilarious if it weren't so bleak. She also couldn't provide the original document, just a photocopy. Oh, she smiled. Mom must have thrown the original away. She wasn't sentimental about things like that. Rachel underestimated me. I requested a forensic handwriting analysis on both wills. She stalled. I filed an emergency petition to freeze the estate before the house could be redecorated by a realty company owned by Rachel's husband's cousin. Then I requested a subpoena for Eleanor's laptop and printer history. Rachel pushed back, claimed we were harassing her during a time of grief, brought in a local news outlet to write a fluff piece about small-town vultures disrespecting grieving families. It almost worked, until a private investigator I knew from a past case got involved. He traced the realtors who witnessed the forged will. One of them admitted she never saw Eleanor sign it, said Rachel called her in for a small favor to sign something for probate stuff. Rachel, it turned out, had created the will on her home computer. The metadata from the file, retrieved from her cloud backup, showed it was edited by her 2 days after Eleanor was hospitalized for what would be her final stay. And just when you think this is the twist, oh no. Because Eleanor didn't just suspect Rachel might forge a document. She knew. The discovery of the original handwritten will already set everything on fire. But what Andrew and I found next turned the flames into an inferno. After we confirmed Rachel forged the typed version, complete with a falsified creation date and bogus witnesses, I prepared to submit the findings to the probate court. But Andrew, he looked haunted. "There's something else," he said, eyes rimmed with dark exhaustion. "Mom told me if Rachel did anything shady, I was supposed to find the red folder. But this one isn't red." He returned a day later with a second folder, dusty, worn, hidden in a false bottom drawer of Eleanor's writing desk. taped shut and marked only with a post-it that read, "If Rachel tries anything." Inside were three things: a handwritten letter from Eleanor to her longtime friend and neighbor, Dr. Ellen Carver, a USB flash drive, and a sealed envelope labeled "Final Will, do not open unless fraud suspected." We both froze. The letter to Dr. Carver revealed a paranoia that would have seemed excessive, if not for the reality we were staring down. Eleanor wrote that she believed Rachel was manipulating her, that Rachel had become obsessed with the house and what she called the family legacy, that she once overheard Rachel and her husband joking that Mom doesn't need to live there much longer. Eleanor, in the letter, stated, "I love my daughter, but I don't trust her. Not with my legacy. Not with Andrew's future." She has a way of smiling while sinking the knife in. The flash drive? Even worse. It contained a voice recording, dated 4 months before Eleanor died. In it, Eleanor's raspy voice said, "If you're hearing this, Rachel, then I was right. You couldn't wait. You thought you could rewrite the story, but I wrote the ending before you could. And Andrew, I'm sorry you're dragged into this, but you were always the honest one." The sealed envelope, opened under court supervision, contained Eleanor's final will, dated 1 month before her death, handwritten, notarized by Dr. Carver herself, and with signatures from her nurse and her longtime housekeeper. This will didn't just disinherit Rachel. It gave Andrew everything. The house, the savings, even the jewelry. Rachel was mentioned only once. To Rachel, I leave a single photograph of our family at Christmas, because image was always what mattered most to her. That hit like a nuke. And let me tell you, when Rachel learned that this will existed, she exploded. She accused Andrew of forging it, of manipulating their mother in her final days. She claimed Eleanor was senile, vindictive, and not of sound mind. But Eleanor had planned for that too. A series of medical documents, signed by 2 independent specialists, attested to her full mental competence at the time of signing. Dr. Carver had already submitted them to her own lawyer, anticipating future games. It was airtight. Rachel wasn't just exposed as a fraud. She was exposed as an arrogant one. So sure of herself, she never imagined Eleanor would outthink her. And the town? Oh, the town took sides. Half thought Eleanor was cruel for cutting her daughter out completely. The other half thought Rachel deserved worse. The comment sections on local forums became battlegrounds. Some blamed me for helping Andrew steal what was rightfully shared. Others called me a hero. But it didn't stop there. Rachel's husband, a man who previously stayed quiet, was now in panic mode. Turns out, he'd already taken out a mortgage against the Delaney house, anticipating a windfall, a house that was no longer his wife's to touch. When the dust settled, we were only just beginning to understand how deep Rachel's plans went, and how many people she pulled into her scheme. And then we found the phone recordings. We discovered the phone recordings in a way that still gives me chills. Andrew had been combing through Eleanor's home office, mostly organizing, grieving in his quiet, methodical way, when he found an old iPhone tucked inside a jewelry box. It was off, dead battery. The screen was cracked, as if someone had stepped on it and shoved it out of sight. Curious, he brought it to me. I had it charged and examined by a tech guy I trust, used to work cybercrime before opening a PC repair shop near the courthouse. Within hours, he called me, his voice unusually quiet. "This thing's got call records, voice memos, and even audio of live conversations. Looks like she was running a voice recorder app, probably to catch her daughter." What we heard was devastating. There were at least 6 recordings. Most were mundane. But 3? Those changed everything. In one, Eleanor speaks to Rachel on speakerphone. The tone is civil, warm, even a little tired. Rachel on the other end is cheery. Too cheery. Rachel, "Of course I'll help you, Mom. I just think you've got too much to deal with now. The will? That's just paper. I mean, no offense, but who even needs lawyers? I could draw it up for you. You can trust me." Then a pause. Eleanor, "It's not about trust. It's about legality." Rachel, "Come on. You know Andrew isn't stable. You really want him living alone in that big house with all your things? He'll burn it down." Eleanor, "You're underestimating him." Rachel, "No, Mom. You're underestimating me." Another recording, captured by accident when Eleanor left the phone recording on a table, caught Rachel talking to her husband. This one's quieter, full of rustling, like they didn't know the phone was recording. Rachel, "I told you, once she's gone, we file the one I printed. Nobody's going to question it. Andrew's not going to fight. He'll probably just cry and go home to his bugs." Husband, "And the house?" Rachel, "Listed within a month. I've already got the open house drafted. That one made me sick to my stomach. But the third? That's the one that turned public opinion hard against Rachel. It was a voicemail, left unintentionally, likely while she dialed Eleanor and didn't realize the line had connected. In it, she rants to a friend about how exhausting her mother is, saying, "She's lucky I haven't shoved that old witch down the stairs yet." I mean, really, how long can one person cling to life? When we presented the recordings in court, Rachel's lawyer tried to have them thrown out, claiming they were taken without consent. But our judge, an old, sharp woman who'd seen more family implosions than she cared to admit, ruled that since Eleanor recorded them herself in her own home or from her own phone, they were admissible. Rachel's mask slipped fast after that. She went from grieving daughter to venomous accuser. She blamed Andrew, accused him of manipulation, forged tears in front of reporters, and even claimed Eleanor had dementia, a claim quickly dismantled by Eleanor's physicians, whose testimonies I had prepped months in advance. What the judge said during the second probate hearing felt like a gut punch delivered with velvet gloves. It seems the defendant forged a path to power through deception, unaware her mother had already mapped the way to truth. Rachel's forged will was officially declared invalid. The final handwritten one, sealed and protected in that envelope, was upheld. But the damage Rachel had done went beyond legalities. Her marriage was falling apart. Her reputation, destroyed. And the financial storm that was brewing? Oh, it was about to pour. Because remember that mortgage her husband took out on Eleanor's house? Yeah, fraud leaves receipts. Once the court declared Eleanor's final handwritten will valid, the legal dominoes started toppling fast. Rachel didn't just lose the house, she lost everything she'd gambled. But what really cracked things open was that mortgage. Remember, Rachel's husband had taken out a second mortgage on Eleanor's house before her death. This wasn't some innocent financial misstep. It was a bold, arrogant move built on the assumption that Rachel would inherit the property. They'd used a forged quitclaim deed, signed by Eleanor while she was in the hospital, giving Rachel full title. One problem, Eleanor never signed it. Another problem, she was unconscious the day the document was dated. We handed over the signature to a forensic document examiner. The result? A cold, professional report that made Rachel's stomach probably hit the floor. High probability of forgery. Rachel tried to claim that Eleanor had given her verbal permission to sign on her behalf. Then she pivoted, blaming her husband. "I didn't know he filed that," she cried, face tight with panic, during the civil fraud deposition. Her husband didn't play along. He turned on her like a rabid dog in court, saying she told him everything was taken care of, that she wanted to surprise Andrew with a clean estate and no delays, that she reassured him there'd be no probate if things went to plan. When asked what plan meant, he muttered, "Her mother dying." He didn't realize those words would be replayed on the evening news. The bank, now exposed for issuing a mortgage based on falsified ownership, immediately filed suit against Rachel and her husband. Their own lawyer jumped ship 2 days later. Fraud on a mortgage application carries serious weight, and the DA opened an investigation before we even got the paperwork dry. But Andrew? He didn't want vengeance. He just wanted peace. He told me in private, "I don't want her in jail. I just want her to leave Mom's name alone. She already tore up enough of her memory." Still, it wasn't up to him. The county prosecutor pressed criminal charges, 1 count of forgery, 1 count of filing false documents, and 1 count of attempted fraud. Rachel posted bail using borrowed funds, ironically from one of the very realtors who'd witnessed the forged will. Public opinion turned completely by this point. Rachel, once the golden daughter with perfect family photos on Instagram, was now the subject of TikToks titled, "When Southern Charm Turns into Criminal Fraud." She lost her seat on the PTA. She was removed as co-chair of the annual church gala. Her husband filed for separation, pending outcome of legal proceedings. But the part that broke me was the voicemail Andrew received one night. It was from Rachel. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She sobbed. I didn't think she'd do that. I didn't think she'd really cut me out. I wanted to be the favorite again. Andrew didn't respond. He just forwarded the voicemail to me with the words, "Should I keep this for court?" I told him yes. Not because we needed it, but because it was the closest thing Rachel would ever give to the truth. And truth in this story had been buried under layers of fake smiles, broken trust, and carefully crafted lies. But Eleanor? She'd built a legacy strong enough to survive all of it. The criminal trial started 3 months later. By then, Rachel's life was already in ruins, publicly humiliated, under federal investigation, abandoned by her social circle, and rapidly running out of money. But still, she walked into that courtroom like she had something to prove. She wore all white, like a martyr. Hair perfectly done, no makeup except mascara that would inevitably run later. She smiled at the jury as if she were hosting a charity luncheon, like she believed deep down that charm would still work. It didn't. The prosecution built their case carefully. They began with the forged will, comparing Eleanor's authentic signatures over the years with the one on the fraudulent will Rachel submitted. The handwriting expert, calm and precise, testified, "In my professional opinion, the will was not signed by Eleanor Delaney." Then came the witnesses. The two realtors who originally witnessed the forged will were now on the prosecution's side. Both had taken immunity deals. They admitted that Rachel asked them to just sign it, saying it was legal cleanup stuff. One of them cried on the stand. The other said, bluntly, "She told me her mom was too sick to bother and this would make everything easier." Then they played the recordings. Eleanor's voice, calm, measured, sharp with maternal disappointment. "Rachel, if you're hearing this, then you failed the test, and you proved me right." The jury listened, jaws clenched. Then came the phone conversation. Rachel bragging to her husband about the clean title and how Andrew won't even notice until it's too late. And the voicemail? The one where she joked about pushing her mother down the stairs? Played out loud in front of everyone. I watched Rachel flinch when she heard herself say it. But the jury didn't flinch. They stared, some with disgust. One juror turned away. Rachel's defense tried to argue she was grieving, that Eleanor played mind games, and that Rachel just wanted clarity and order for the family. But it was flimsy. Even her own lawyer seemed to stop believing her halfway through. Andrew testified last. He was composed, quiet. He didn't look at Rachel once. "I never expected to inherit anything. I just wanted to make sure Mom's wishes were respected. That's all. This wasn't about money. It was about not letting her be erased." The courtroom was silent. When the verdict came, it took less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: forgery, filing fraudulent documents, attempted financial fraud. Rachel sat still for a moment, then turned to Andrew as they cuffed her. "You think you won? You think Mom loved you more?" He didn't answer. She screamed as she was led out of the courtroom, mascara now smeared halfway down her cheeks, her final words echoing off the marble. "You were always the mistake." The judge didn't even flinch, just banged her gavel and closed the case. Outside, reporters gathered. Cameras, microphones. Andrew walked right past them. No statement, no triumph, just quiet steps, like he'd been carrying weight for years and could finally start to breathe again. Back in the office, he left one thing on my desk before heading out: a copy of Eleanor's real will. On top of it was a post-it note in his careful handwriting. She outplayed her daughter, but not out of spite, out of love for the truth. Rachel's conviction sent shockwaves through the town, but it was the silence afterward that struck the hardest. No more press outside the courthouse. No more Facebook posts from Rachel about charity events or strong families. The woman who once seemed to orbit every social circle had vanished, and in her place was only scandal and pity. But the consequences didn't stop with the guilty verdict. What most people didn't know was that, while the criminal case unfolded, I was helping Andrew navigate the civil fallout. The bank had already begun foreclosure proceedings, not on Eleanor's house, but on Rachel's, the home she shared with her husband and 2 kids. Turns out, that fraudulent second mortgage Rachel's husband took out on Eleanor's property wasn't just a bold move. It was stupidly reckless. Because when the forged quitclaim deed fell apart in court, the collateral for the loan disappeared. And when collateral disappears, banks panic. Rachel's husband tried to pin the entire thing on her. He filed a declaration in the civil case stating he signed documents under marital trust and that he was unaware the deed was fake. He claimed Rachel had reassured him it was all valid and that Andrew had no interest in the property anyway. Of course, that was a lie. He wasn't innocent. In fact, emails revealed he'd already sent documents to a local contractor weeks before Eleanor passed, asking for quotes to gut and renovate the home. He even had mock-ups done with their initials branded into the new gate. He believed the house was theirs. He believed the money was real. And when the lie crumbled, he tried to claw his way out like a drowning man pulling others down with him. Rachel's name was on the mortgage paper. Rachel was the one who filed the forged will. Rachel had her signature, real and fake, on almost every key document in the fraud. The bank's lawyers weren't playing games. They filed a fraud and restitution suit that threatened to take everything: the house, the cars, their retirement accounts. Rachel's husband tried to negotiate. He even offered to testify against her in exchange for reduced damages. But it was too late. Publicly, he distanced himself. Privately, he sent Andrew an email, an absolutely pathetic one, asking if there was any way to make peace. Andrew didn't answer. Instead, he asked me to send the man a single scanned image, a photo of Eleanor in her reading chair, taken by Andrew a few months before she died. In her lap, a book. At her side, a note Rachel had written in middle school. "I'll never lie to you, Mommy." That was the entire reply. Not long after, Rachel's husband filed for separation. He cited irreconcilable betrayal. The irony was painful. Their house was foreclosed on. Their children were sent to live temporarily with Rachel's mother-in-law in another state. Rachel, now inmate number 38,419, sat in a beige uniform, denied visitors except immediate family. No more brunches. No more wine tastings. No more community leadership. Only silence and a cold cell. And yet, even from behind bars, she couldn't stop trying to control the narrative. Rachel's downfall didn't just unfold in court, it metastasized in public. A week after her conviction, someone began posting anonymously on a local Facebook group, Westbridge Families United. The account used a stock profile photo and the name Concerned Auntie. But the tone was unmistakably familiar. Posts started showing up like this. Just a reminder, sometimes people confess under duress. Ever wonder why someone would record their own daughter? Manipulative parents exist too. Or, we're supposed to forgive. Hasn't this family suffered enough without outsiders judging things they don't understand? Most people ignored it. But a few, people who'd once praised Rachel at school auctions and HOA meetings, began to entertain the idea that maybe she was a victim too. That maybe Eleanor had set her up. That Andrew was a shadowy mastermind who let his mother pit them against each other. I don't usually get involved in online chatter, but Andrew sent me screenshots, asking if he should respond. I told him no. But then came the podcast. A small-time true crime show, Small Town Truths, ran an episode called The Rachel Delaney Conspiracy. It painted Rachel as a misunderstood daughter, Andrew as the reclusive and conveniently silent brother, and Eleanor as a high-functioning narcissist who orchestrated her own legacy from the grave. They barely mentioned the forensic proof, the court rulings, the recorded voicemails. They framed it like a psychological drama, not a fraud case with hard evidence. The episode blew up. Comments flooded in from people who hadn't even followed the case. OMG, what if Andrew did forge the real will? Eleanor sounds toxic AF. Not defending Rachel, but I kind of get her now. It enraged Andrew. He came into my office with trembling hands, holding his phone, saying, "I can't let her rewrite this." "Not again," I reminded him. The law already spoke. Her story was over, but he didn't want the last word to be hers. So Andrew did something I didn't expect. He recorded an episode of his own. A single, quiet 30-minute monologue. No drama, no soundtrack. Just his voice. Honest, shaky, real. He titled it, What She Took. In it, he described his last real conversation with Eleanor. How she made him tea, even when her hands shook. How she asked him if he was scared of what might come. How she gave him the key to the hidden drawer and said, "Don't use it unless she forces you." He talked about growing up in Rachel's shadow, about being called awkward, difficult, not a leader, about how their mother used to cry after Rachel left the room, but never said why. And then he said, "I didn't fight her because I wanted the house. I fought because Mom trusted me with the truth. I couldn't let Rachel bury that just to feel like the favorite one more time." The episode didn't go viral. It didn't trend. But those who listened, especially people who knew the Delaneys, shared it quietly, like a whispered apology, like a way to put the truth back in the center of the table. And after that, Concerned Auntie stopped posting. Rachel's husband deleted his social media. And the podcast host? She issued a retraction 2 weeks later, citing newly received documents and a clearer understanding of the case record. Translation: someone threatened to sue. Andrew didn't ask for an apology. He just deleted the app and went back to work. Eleanor's house remained untouched, unrenovated, just preserved. Until one spring morning, something changed. It happened on a Sunday morning in April. Andrew walked the perimeter of Eleanor's garden, her roses blooming for the first time since her death, when he saw a woman standing at the gate. Slim, pale, dressed simply in a gray coat. She didn't speak. She didn't move. It was Rachel, fresh out of jail, thinner than before, but unmistakably her. She held nothing but a small canvas bag. Her eyes looked hollow, not just tired, but emptied. Andrew didn't move for a while, just stared. Then he walked to the gate and opened it. No words. She stepped through. They stood in the garden Eleanor had once tended every Sunday afternoon. Finally, Rachel spoke. I thought she'd leave me something. Even if it was hate. Andrew didn't answer. She opened the bag and pulled out a photo. The family Christmas portrait Eleanor had mentioned in her final will. The only item bequeathed to Rachel. She handed it to him. I don't want it. It's yours, he said. She's dead, Andrew. Why does it still feel like she's winning? He sighed. Because you never understood what she was playing for. She sat down on the stone bench near the hydrangeas. Her voice cracked. I wasn't always like this. I know. Long silence. Then Rachel said something unexpected. I'm going to sell everything. Start over. I'm moving. Out west, maybe? Andrew nodded. He didn't ask where. If the kids want to visit you, she added. I won't stop them. Just don't tell them I was this. He looked at her for a long time, then said, they'll learn it eventually. The question is whether they'll learn it from you. She didn't respond. When she stood to leave, she paused at the gate, touching the iron handle like she needed to anchor herself to something. You never lied. Not once. Even when I deserved it. That's why she trusted me, Andrew said softly. She left. And that was the last time he saw her. Months passed. The podcast faded into internet archives. The Facebook threads disappeared. The house stayed quiet. Andrew adopted another cat. Started teaching again. Lived simply. But in the fall, I received one last envelope from him. No note. Just a photo. The garden in full bloom. Eleanor's reading chair on the porch. And beneath it, a brass plaque he had installed. She protected the truth. Even from the people she loved most. A quiet ending. But not a sad one. Just one. And for once, in the long, messy history of family betrayals and courtroom wars, truth won.